Dr. Lobsang Tenzin Negi is a professor in the Department of Religion at Emory University and the director of the Center for Contemplative Science and Compassion-Based Ethics. He developed CBCT, Cognitively Based Compassion Training, and C Learning, Social, Emotional, and Ethical Learning, focusing on the connection between emotional states and physical social well-being. A former Tibetan monk, Dr. Negi has pioneered innovative programs such as the Emory Tibet Science Initiative, which teaches modern science to Tibetan monks, and C Learning, a K-12 educational framework. He is also the founder and spiritual director of the Drepung Losang Monastery in Atlanta. In collaboration with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Emory University operates groundbreaking educational programs through the Center for Contemplative Science and Compassion-Based Ethics. These initiatives bring Buddhist principles into modern education and research. So we would be honored, if you would be able to do a small introductory, meditation session for our viewers for Go Inside Global.
Okay.
Yes.
But before we do the meditation, let me say this. When His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he tells us about how we can bring compassion to our lives. It really, three pillars, if we can rely, that can help us. That number one is personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
Personal experience is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, what the color of this thing, it's white, right?
Right.
I can say, this is white, and then what is white? It's white, like the color of the crane, that bird. What is white? What is that? You can say all those things. To somebody who has been blind from the beginning, they never. You can explain all different ways, but until you if you can't see, you don't have the know that what it feels like, the seeing.
Right.
So same thing, compassion. We can talk about the theory about this and that, but until we can taste it, what it feels, what compassion, what it looks like, what it feels, then it can remain just intellectual thing. That we need to have a personal experience.
Right.
Second part, that from there, then if we were to expand compassion, that we can build a common sense. What compassion feels like, what it means to me. Then from there, when I need that compassion for me, then we can, build that other person. They also have feelings. They also have those needs and so forth. So therefore, they need also compassion too, the value of compassion. You can have a common sense. But also in today's world, that highly kind of scientific culture that we are living, we need to have the scientific evidence.
Yeah,
Right.
sure.
If we can have some scientific evidence
Yes.
that can, help you to have a kind of, have some convictions about the value of compassion. Something we don't value, to try to do that, it doesn't interest us, right? You will become bored and fall asleep, or that move away, right? So kind of evidence is important. So I want to, before we do the meditation, say the little bit of evidence.
Oh,
Please.
great. The effect of the CBCT and
the compassion.
meditation. Oh, sure.
Compassion, not just through the CBCT studies, but compassion research is exploding.
Yes.
Like that. Not simply by teaching compassion, but looking at people who are treating compassionately, what happens to them, what benefits come. So if you understand compassion to be, the where an individual or the individuals can feel this, more meaningful connection, more tender, more, endearing feelings towards each other and like that. If that you take that at the heart of the compassion there, then it makes sense. Even like Darwin, the father of the evolution of biology, he recognized that observing the species, in the species where there was, his word was sympathy, the compassion for the sympathy. When the sympathy was flourishing, in the family or in the species, that those species thrived. Where the sympathy was missing, like that those species perished.
Yeah.
In the modern time, fast forward modern time, we see that same thing,
I think
at the
so.
workplace. In the, whether it's in the hospital or anywhere, at the business place, corporate world, family, wherever, if there is that more tender, warm feeling among each other is missing, how can we build trust? How can we build cooperation? Without the cooperation, a social community, like that, cannot flourish. We
Yes.
depend on the reciprocity and cooperation. And what promotes that is that, not like that, I will do this and you will scratch my back, not the calculation, transactional. That can be very, artificial. But really, when you begin to feel tenderly about
Yes.
value, then it's naturally that you will look at them differently. Your tone would be
Right.
different. When they make some mistake, you will treat them differently instead of just, like that. So that's why that compassion, but today in the scientists themselves, they are seeing that we managed to evolve to this point, become not, primarily not because of competition. That's the old thinking in the science. Its paradigm is shifting. They are seeing that, research, that evolutionary biologists are looking at, it's actually the cooperation that has promoted. For the cooperation, you need the tenderness, that the meaningful connection, and like that, for the genuine cooperation. So that's why, in the businesses, in the healthcare, in the schools, everywhere, the science, the research is showing that where there is a greater sense of connection, the social connectivity is highly correlated with our mental, greater mental health, greater, flourishing, the greater productivity, accomplishments, and like that. And so research is there. The CBCT itself, as I mentioned, that it started as a research project for the freshman college students at Emory, because the reason was the mental health problems, right? The depression and like that. So we wanted to study to see if you practice compassion, you teach and practice compassion, build that sense of connection, meaningful connection, whether you can see changes in their body, in their chemistry, like the IL-6, which is interleukin-6, is an immune response related to stress response, which is needed when we really have the challenge. But high levels of IL-6, this chemical, is related to inflammation. And today, is a stress reaction.
Yes.
Today, inflammation is a most dominant cause of
Yes.
depression, cancer, and these kind of problems.
Yes,
So we wanted to study, after compassion training, in the blood, would we see the reduced level of IL-6? And also cortisol, which is a stress hormone. What difference would we see? Those who are practicing, not practicing, those who are going to class but not really practicing the much. So what we found was that in the high practice group, people who came to class, learned about, and then outside the class they spent some time practicing, not much. It's about 90 minutes in 1 week. It's like the less than 15 minutes, that if you divide by seven, In that group, you see that when they are subjected to this stress test, very kind of stressful task, you can see that in the high practice group, before the practice, before they were given the 6-week course, high practice, low practice, and the control, that had no difference, significant difference. But after the 6 weeks of practice in the bloodstream, you can see not just for immediately for 90 minutes, that it was drawn for 15 minutes intervals for 90 minutes, you can see that in the high practice group that will practice about 90 minutes per week, on the average, you see that their IL level is significantly lower than the other group. Also, the cortisol, when they are subjected to the stress test, it goes up, both up, and that has to, it's a measure of robustness, it has to. But then, after the 15-minute stress test that they pass through, then their cortisol drop much faster in the high practice group, not in the low practice group. They stay ruminating, It's a measure of resiliency, like that. So then, since then, the CBCT has been studied with the veterans who are struggling with PTSD. It has been studied with the medical students who tend to, really kind of their degree of, empathy kind of drops down by 2nd, 3rd year. It had been studied with the foster care children who have suffered a lot from their, their early environment. It has been studied with the suicide survivors, studied with the breast cancer survivors, and like that. So the benefits are many. But that's the scientific benefit, and this is growing. Today, compassion research is the kind of the dominant research that is happening in the contemplative field. But for us to practice, it's the taste. We need to have the taste of compassion.
Yes.
What it feels like.
Yes.
And that's what we will do. In order to do that, what is needed is to, before we get to doing this, just take a moment to think that when, you received someone's kindness, compassion, or you shared, if you are a mother, you have done or father, so many times with the children, your babies and like that, or with the friends, that's receiving or sharing, or maybe even if nothing comes, then, witnessing, seeing that someone was really kind to someone else, like you'd remember, kind of seeing someone extending that kindness, compassion, Ideally, if you can recall your own receiving when you really need it, when you are going through some difficulties as a child or as an adult, to think about that, So that's why it's called the cognitively based compassion training. That this is, as you were saying earlier, meditation, it has to do with about, becoming aware of the reality. The reality of noticing what it feels when we receive that kindness. So I want us to just do for 5 minutes.
Okay.
And then I will time it. And this is a practice in the CBCT. We call this connecting to the moment of nurturance or the moment of kindness, connecting. And this is not thinking somewhere else, it's our own personally recalling a moment when we received that kindness. Yes? Okay. So let's take a moment, if you can sit comfortably, then maybe if it helps, just keep the back in the upright position, bringing it upright position, and your body nicely settled in your chair or on the cushion, floor, wherever you are sitting. Just bring the attention inwards to your chest, to your shoulders, upper back, and like that. What shifts do you notice as you sit like this? Does it give you a little bit of energy that makes you awake and alert? Yet when you have your body nicely settled in your chair or the cushion with the firm support that you have of the chair or the floor, does that bring an inner shift, slight shift, feeling grounded, settled? I would like you to just take 1 or 2 deep breaths to further kind of settle our body and mind. If you are feeling little anxious or in the body any discomforts, let's here take 1 deep breath as we breathe in, just slowly. Just breathing in, refreshing and rejuvenating, just nourishing air rich with life-giving oxygen. Just pause for a moment to let this oxygen-rich air infuse with every cell, every part of us, nourishing our body and mind. And as we breathe out, slowly and with full exhalation, just with that, let go of any tensions that you may have been feeling in your body and mind. Let the outgoing breath just help us release, clear, thereby allowing your body and mind to just rest in an unfolding sense of calm and ease. If that happens, rest there. Otherwise, take 1 or 2 more of this intentional deep in-breath of those oxygen-rich, life-giving oxygen-rich air, with the outgoing breath, releasing our tensions, worries, and agitations and so forth, just letting them go. In that way, letting the body and mind to settle in a sense of calm and ease. Notice how it feels when you have just let your body and mind settle in this unfolding sense of ease. You're bringing attention inwards to your chest, to your shoulders. What that inner landscape feels like. Is there a certain degree of warmth, soothing sensations there? Also internally, is there a certain degree of calm and sense of ease, peace? I'd like to invite you at this point to see when else have you experienced a similar, perhaps even greater, or similar, or maybe less, feeling of ease, feeling of comfort, sense of joy or safety. Can you think of a moment when you received someone's kindness, whether what you were going through, someone helped with that, or even just being with you, that noticing you, seeing you without judging? If someone in your moment of difficulties, you receive such. If you cannot remember yourself receiving, do you remember extending the help to someone who was really in need? Your child, your friend, someone, a student, or someone stranger even. If that's also difficult to think, have you ever seen someone extending help to someone else, extending kindness? So any of these, whether our own personal experience of receiving kindness, or experience of extending kindness to someone, or experience of witnessing when someone is extending kindness to someone else. Can you remember an event like that? Perhaps in our childhood, when our parents just held us when we're not feeling well. Or things like that. As any of these events, as you can connect, recall, remember. See if you can put yourself in that moment. Bring into mind as vividly as you can that moment, but also adds much detail. The sensory sensations of the place where this unfolded for you. Do you see the colors around? What were the colors? Any sounds, aroma? In such sharing or receiving, what was the expression on the other person's face? Perhaps the body language. In exchange of the words, what was the tone of the voice? What was conveyed that was so meaningful to us? What are our own unfolding feelings, sensation in the body, and feeling in words? What was that like for us? Can you relive for a moment, that experience, that moment? Immersing ourselves in that moment by bringing that moment as vividly and with as much detail to our mind, spending a few moments there. Once again, notice what your sensations in your body now, in the chest, in the inner body landscape. What do you notice? What sensations do you notice? Is it soothing, tender, warm, comforting? Our shoulders feel a little lighter. Perhaps our face a little smoother, a little more relaxed. How do we feel internally? Is that feel more peaceful, joyous? Somewhat more safe. What that moment of compassion looked like, what it feels like, and what it does to us right now in our body and mind. Take a moment to just reflect at how valuable such moments of kindness when we receive, when we share, what difference that makes in our lives. How precious are those moments when we can receive or we can share, when the compassion is shared with each other. As a human society, as a social animals like us, how important, how valuable, how necessary the compassion, this capacity to see the needs of others and to extend. Without such, what would our life be? What would our society be like? Seeing the value of kindness, experiencing and seeing this for ourselves. Perhaps we can commit to making the compassion grow, make this more abundant in our life. In that way, we can contribute to the well-being of others as well, in our family, at our workplace, in our society. So let's conclude by setting a brief intention, if you can, this wonderful quality of compassion when we receive, when we share, as it adds to our well-being, that we will work towards cultivating, expanding this in our lives, and then bring that into our action in however small ways we can. Perhaps even sometimes just sharing a smile to someone stranger, or just reaching out to someone we haven't spoken for some time, just giving a call to say how much we love them, we appreciate them. Just bringing that compassion into our action. So what was this like for you?
What was it like for me? Let me get out of it.
We need some time.
I mean, definitely felt some warmth. I guess like in the conclusion when you set the intention of giving a smile to the stranger, I think that was very impactful for me, because you never really think about giving a smile to a stranger, but you'll give a smile to like people around you, like your family, 스님, right? But like if someone's walking, you don't be like, oh hi, So I mean, I think that's really important. And when you talked about the evidence before we went into it, I think that's what was really capturing for me. Like that really made me want to, do the compassion-based meditation as well. So I think people nowadays, when they talk about meditation, it's like, why would I have to do it? Like, what's in it for me? So I think like giving the evidence first, and then also reminding them like, this is how the experience of compassion, those two elements, I think for me was really key in really getting into this meditation this time. So thank you for that.
Thank you. So this is a great, demonstration of how you resonate with what His Holiness says, right? That's personal experience.
Yes.
For us to see the value of perhaps some evidence we want to, understand, know.
Right.
Yes. And then the practice.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
So I think the CBCT program has been introduced to Korean people since 2023. And I think many Korean people will gain some benefits from this program. And I'm going to bring the CBCT to Korean people. And now I think we need to talk about the C learning. So CBCT is for the adults, and the C learning is for children. So could you explain about the C learning program?
So C learning, the C learning, SEE learning, it stands for social, emotional, and ethical learning. Like the ETSI, like compassion, like that. C learning, of course, is a program that His Holiness the Dalai Lama has been for many years, not only thinking, encouraging others, but writing himself. He himself. It was like His Holiness is why he wanted to create C learning or the secular ethics in education. Yet he tells in Ethics for New Millennium, he says that a revolution is called for. Revolution. He's saying not of the political or economic or even technological revolution. We have seen this, in the 20th century, plenty of that. But when, to see that when purely or excessively externally focused approach is not going to be enough. What we need, he says, is the spiritual revolution.
Right.
And the spiritual revolution, not religious revolution, spiritual revolution, meaning that, basic spirituality for him is the basic human values like kindness, compassion, that the mindfulness, the greater awareness about others, respect for others, forgiveness, justice. These are the qualities. So that's why in 2015, His Holiness asked us at Emory University to create a framework and then the curriculum different levels of curricula based on the framework. And we began in 2015. For us, it was really, wonderful opportunity because we have been working in this field, with the CBCT, working in this
for a long
ETSI,
time,
like all these things. So it was now, as you said, that CBCT is for the adult, that's these skills, same skills bring into adult. We needed to figure out how to make this for the children, K through 12 primarily, but it could be for the other, university school students as well. So that's why we assembled the teachers, school teachers who had gone through CBCT, most of them, and our own, colleagues at our center. So we began with, bringing those insights from the books that His Holiness has written. Daniel Goleman, who had channeled His Holiness's wisdom also to bring into this emotional intelligence, social intelligence, ecological intelligence. Books like Focus, The Hidden Driver of Excellence, or The Triple Focus, at the New Approach to Education. These are Daniel Goleman, widely kind of known right around the world for his pioneering work in the SEL, social emotional learning field, So his work, and then others, the many others, the developmental psychologists, like Rob Rosser, Kimberly Shonert-Raquel, who has done a lot of research in the, this field. So, and then, people like the Geshe Tenzin, who is His Holiness's long-term translator, his input, and then our own work, like our own. So the framework was created, and then the curricula, and then 2019, it was launched internationally in Delhi.
I was in
His
there.
Holiness. And you were, the Hejusanim, you were there, along with, over 1,000, educators and policymakers from 37 countries. And that's what, so it's sea learning. The sea learning.
And at that time, 37 countries, but now it's 40? Or
37 countries representative came, like from Korea, yourself, and like that. But so that was the launch, and since then, that sea learning then was disseminated. It was intended from the beginning as a global curriculum, because His Holiness really believes that in our education, in the modern education, for long has neglected these inner qualities. It needs to be brought into education, not as a religion, but as, the secular ethics, that is social emotional learning, ethical learning kind of competencies. And so, since it's intended for the global, program, so our, effort has been to reach out to people who are interested, first by word of mouth, but then, as we haven't really done kind of very targeted marketing yet. It has mostly been people who learn about, and then they learn from them, and like that. So now it's over 43 or so countries.
43.
And the sea learning, in India alone, as of last January or December, it had as of May, this last May, in India, through one organizer, one of the two partners that we have called the Piramal Foundation, it has reached over 100,000 schools.
100,000 schools.
Reaching more than 15 million children. And then there are other countries like Brazil, like the Ukraine, the Germany, Spain, Romania, Mexico, like that, and then in Asia itself, Taiwan, Vietnam, like the Mongolia, like that, many European countries and like that. So it is growing because sea learning, it provides the students these inner tools. First of all, to manage their emotions. Very important, because we are seeing the rise of mental health problem. Even like the teenagers are struggling, with so much, right? So it brings the really kind of evidence-based, science-based tools to regulate, manage our emotions. And then to also brings the social, the kind of the competencies, how you form this empathy, the compassion, so that instead of bullying, that you have more of a kind of healthy interactions with others, which is very important, with the teachers, with your students, and like that. So, that's, and then, what it does, the C-learning, one of its kind of the really the unique, there are a number of elements that C-learning brings to the SEL movement, social emotional learning. Social emotional learning has been for 30-some years now, and there are many, many different curriculum, different programs. Social emotional is not one thing. It's there is a 5 competency framework, and then there are many, many different curriculum, programs. People, mind of second step, and all the nonviolent communication, and everything there. But C-learning is very comprehensive. Daniel Goleman, the pioneer. He is the co-founder of the Castle at this moment, and that his writings are really what shaped C-learning movement. He talks about C-learning is SEL 2.0. In his words, as next generation SEL, next generation C-learning, integrates many components, that are missing, almost all SEL programs, like attention training. Not just talking about the attention as a skill, but cultivation. How do you do that? Compassion, that which is missing in most programs. That he talks about how compassion should be in education. It should be the state of the art in education, which we need. It brings compassion. It brings the systems thinking. System thinking is a very, very important component. In His Holiness's writing, the drawing from the Buddhist tradition, this way of looking at things from this broader perspective. That this what we call the interdependence lens. Through the interdependence, that is a very that way of looking at. Understanding, it's a very important skill. It's a critical thinking skill, which is, we talk about the modern education, we need to have critical thinking, but the critical thinking, outward focus, like it's something. Critical thinking to make meaning and how we understand something, and related to our own behavior and our own, interaction with others. That kind of bringing inwards to see how how we relate to that understanding to shape our own emotions, attitudes, and behavior. That kind of skill is very, very important. So it brings this. So that's why he says that his aspiration. But anyway, so many these NGOs who have been looking for some program that they felt this really needed for their children. The schools. They have been saying that C-learning is a dream come true for them. It's not just one time, many times.
I agree.
Like that.
I remember Heju-Sunim and the CEO of BTM talking about how important it is to, implement compassion and ethics into early education, because that's what builds a healthier society. So thank you, Sunim, for studying that.
Thank you for supporting us. And this is the common question that we ask to all of the meditation teachers and masters who visit here this program. And despite living in a time of unprecedented material abundance, modern people suffer from depression, anxiety, and stress. What should we practice daily to lead a happier and healthier life?
Yeah, in one word, practice compassion.
I think you are working for the compassion shift, the project of compassion shift.
Yes.
So yeah, we need
yes,
to practice
yeah.
compassion.
So as a society, I think that I do believe that we need to, our effort right now, the individually or as many people, participating in creating what His Holiness has called compassion revolution. Compassion revolution. At the recent
That's
book
very important. Yeah.
called Our Only Home. It's an appeal for the climate protection of the planet. It's His Holiness and written by one of the environmentalists.
I see.
In this, His Holiness calls for compassion. That compassion. If you care for our future generation, if we care for people living now in different parts of the world where like the flooding or the lack of water, rain and like that, how many people's lives are just devastated, right? If we care for that, if we care for our children, then we need to think of a world that where our children and grandchildren children will flourish in an environment of mutual respect, in an environment of compassion, in an environment of cooperation, trust, and like that. So for that, ultimately we need to create a culture, a society that's based on a culture of compassion, kindness. That when you have like that in a school or family or the larger society, then children growing will grow in that environment of kindness, compassion, like that. That's what we need.
Yes.
But in order to create that, culture of compassion, advance that. At Emory University, we are, responding to the call of His Holiness for that compassion revolution by initiating this initiative called the Compassion Shift. A Compassion Shift, brings our three programs together. That it is towards advancing a global culture of compassion in the schools, in the the college, the elementary, preschool to college levels, at the professional schools, bringing curriculum-based learning of the social, emotional, ethical learning skills for adults in other sectors of the human society, healthcare, business, leadership, in the mental health, well-being, communities, counseling.
Teachers, parents.
Parents, that school teachers and like that, bring in the CBCT. And then, that with what we need to do is to enhance, advance the understanding that how this inner, contemplative qualities that, how do we understand, that, and that's where that we need to bring the contemplative, practitioners, scholars. That's what the ETSI, Emory Tibet Science Initiative, is preparing for, right? So all these three programs that we have, we see this as, sort of moving that compassion revolution. And we would like to invite everyone, but thank you for joining in this movement by creating C-Learning Korea, the bringing C-Learning and CBCD, but that other, regardless of whatever religion you have or not, not religion, I think that joining in Compassion Shift, we can, create, we can work towards creating that global culture of compassion where we can, where our lives can be meaningful, that we can ensure the well-being for our future generations.
Yes. Compassion movement.
Compassion revolution.
Compassion wave.
Yes.
Not the K wave, but the
compassion
wave.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate your wisdom.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me here and giving the opportunity to share a little bit of what we do. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
감사합니다.
감사합니다.
Just as we need water, air, and food to survive, we need compassion in order to live both happily and in peace. And yes, we are able to strengthen and sustain compassion through meditation and education.
Meditation is one of the most effective ways to achieve not only personal well-being, but also social well-being. The key is to experience it yourself. Don't just listen to the stories or stay in your thoughts. Make sure to actually try it out. Go inside Global with Geshe Lobsang Tenzin Negi from the Center for Contemplative Science and Compassion-Based Ethics. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.